Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is that time of the year again where we expose more fake racism that is being used to perpetuate real racism in the world of professional hockey. So we're going to start out with this article that was written by our good friend Mark, who's one of the biggest anti-white racists you will find on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all these other platforms. He writes an article that says, "Hockey for everyone, the NHL's new diversity report shows how false that is." And it's funny because he received a hell of a lot of hate for this article, and rightfully so. And of course, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, which of course I have blocked on Twitter. I am back on Twitter, by the way, at Luxy911. If you type out my name, Luxy_91, it'll pop up. I'm going to react to a few hate messages in a couple of days. I've had my account suspended for the last week, but we got her back up and running now. So the Hockey Diversity Alliance, which is run by Aka Malou, who's a total anti-white racist scumbag who tweets only like once every 2 weeks. He's the NHL version of Colin Kaepernick, if you don't know. And he only tweets like once every 2 weeks, exposing a bunch of fake racism. And we got our good friend Mark here. And Ian Kennedy, who's another anti-white racist. And, of course, he's got pronouns in his bio, so you can't actually take anything he says to be the truth. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and with Aka Malou here, it's funny. It's funny how he talks about how the NHL's handling of its diversity program is only marketing, yet let's take a look at Aka Malou. He says, "Hate will never win, yet you are the biggest. You have more hatred toward white people than probably anybody I've ever seen." So he's another scumbag. And notice this right here. He tweets it on October 6th, talking about how he heard a white player call a black player the N-word. Show us the proof. Where's the proof? And give us the context. How come a white person felt the need to call a black person that word? I wonder why. A lot of anti-white racism going on around here nowadays. But anyway, you want to talk about marketing? We'll take a look at Aka Malou here. Oh, he partners with Adidas. How much money is he making from his partnership with Adidas here? Must be doing pretty well for himself, exposing fake racism in the world of hockey while promoting real racism. Grateful and humbled to be named one of them to their list of power list of 50 most powerful Canadians. And what he means by that is wealthy. So this guy's getting paid a ton of money for promoting anti-white racism. And you just have to question that too, right? Like if you hate the sport of hockey and think it's a complete, and you hate the NHL and you talk about how it's nothing but a bunch of racist heterosexual white men, then why are you continuing to follow the sport? Like follow another sport. Why would you continue to follow a sport that you think is racist? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It's marketing. You want to maintain your list of the 50 most powerful Canadians through the money you're getting. So let's go back to Ian Kennedy real quick. We're going to watch two videos in a minute by two people that are actually speaking out against this, and that is Mark Dice, which, again, I'm sure he's being crucified because he's a white man. But we're also going to listen to another gentleman who goes by the name of Black Conservative on YouTube. Give him his channel a sub because he makes a lot of great points, and we're going to get to that. But listen to what this clown Ian Kennedy says. He says the NHL's Executive Inclusion Council, and what inclusion means is anti-white racism. We got to get rid of white people and replace them with black people, or people of color, as they like to say, which is a racial slur. But so what happens then? So if we get rid of all the white people out of sports and we have only minorities, what's the next thing that people like Ian Kennedy are going to bitch and complain about? What's the next thing that's going to upset them? Because you look at this guy's tweets and Aka Malou's tweets and Hockey Diversity Alliance tweets, I got to think it must really suck to wake up every day and think, how can I get offended today? Well, notice what he goes on to say. He says, comparison of clubs, owners, presidents, general managers to guide the diversity and exclusion efforts. The group is largely wealthy, white, cis, heterosexual, and men. In no way should this group be guiding social change. So what this guy is saying is you cannot have a league that includes white heterosexual males. We got to get rid of white heterosexual men, God forbid. But here's the thing, before this, on my Twitter, I was able to like a few tweets on here. You guys got to see these. These are pretty damn funny, of people that actually get it. One person goes, straight up racism distinguished as virtuous. He's referring to the made up racism toward black people that, of course, hasn't existed in 58 years versus the real racism toward white people. And then he goes, fixing non-existent racism with actual racism. It says, imagine if this might be the tweet of the year right here by this guy called Trudy Blues. He goes, imagine if a white chick got up at an NBA podium and was like, black people make up 15% of the country and 80% of NBA players. We need less black people. She would be canceled harder than my last dinner date with my in-laws. How true that is. And that's the thing about it. That's how you know whether something's racist or not, guys. That's how you know. If it was a white person saying it the same thing about a black person, would it be racist? Yes or no? If what's being said toward a black person was if a white person did something toward a black person and then a same black person did that same thing toward a white person, would it be considered racism? If the answer is no, then it's not racism. Racism is one of those words that has really drifted far away from its original definition. The original definition of racism is doing something specifically because of race. And now you see them coming out and saying we need to get rid of white people and replace them with gay people and people of color. That is actual racism. But because people don't know about that, don't know what the definition of real racism is, here we are. So there are a couple other good tweets here. I like this one. This is a perfect example of what this smart guy actually is. Total clown. Total anti-white racism. And then, of course, you see that like 95% of the NBA is black. So how come the NBA is not releasing how come they're not coming out and saying, you know what, our league is too black. We need to make it more diverse. We need to make it 50% white by 2035. How come where's that article, Mark? Where's that article? Where's your article in the NFL too? How come there's not any white running backs or cornerbacks or safeties? How come 75, 80% of the players are black? I want to know that, buddy. But anyway, we're going to leave it to these two gentlemen I'm going to talk to here. We're going to let them explain this as good or better than I could. So here we go. Let's listen to this gentleman. Be sure to subscribe. Black conservative perspective. This he's one of the intelligent ones. So let's listen to him.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys. This anti-white woke racism that is rampant in our country really does grind my gears, okay? Because it is so hypocritical, right? The way that things are done in regards to how it is never a problem when an industry, company, business, whatever you want to call it, any type of organization is mostly so-called people of color, right? If it's mostly non-white, totally fine, right? We don't need diversity and inclusion. But Lord forbid a company, a business, or organization be mostly white and we have a problem that needs to be fixed according to the NHL's woke diversity chief that presented a report that found that the NHL was too white. That the NHL, the National Hockey League, is too white and that they must fix the problem. Take a look.
It says that we.
Okay, we're not gonna actually listen to this idiot. We'll go back and listen to the intelligent guy. Here we go. And I just want to say, it says NHL in its workforce, 80% white, sets baseline to up diversity. which really, when they're talking about diversity, what they're talking about is getting rid of heterosexual white men, which is actual racism. But I want you to know, in the language of gematria, when you run the alphabetic order, the word ice hockey sums to 84. And we know what a big number that is with the Jesuits who control the world of rigged hockey. So let's continue here.
This report, according to the Associated Press, found that the NFL's workforce.
Sorry, sir, but this
Gotta
table
skip
is
a
reserved
commercial
for
here.
high-ranking players only.
My power is at
Was 84% white. Okay, 84% white. And that men make up nearly 62% of the total based off 4,200 people who participated in the voluntary survey.
I just want you to see how it says 67% of all employees. Remember, the word hockey is 67. That's why the NHL expansion happened in 1967.
Of players and nearly all coaches and officials are white. Quote, the whole purpose behind doing a workforce study is to provide a baseline, a fact-based baseline, so that you can begin to develop very intentional and specific strategies around where you need to hire, how you need to hire, how you need to improve your brand. Kim Davis, the NHL's Executive Vice President of Social Impact Growth and Legislative Affairs. Quote, this is a good start, but there's a ways to go. A number of those steps are already in progress. Davis said you can't expect to recruit Black, Indigenous, and people of color folks to work in a league if you don't at the same time have your stadium fan code of conduct underway so people feel like the sport is really serious about growing the fan base. You also have to make sure that you're reaching out to the communities from a youth participation perspective. So all those efforts are underway. So
show me one instance where in the world of hockey, a Black person was denied the ability to play by a racist white heterosexual who said, no, you're not allowed to go in this arena and play hockey because you're Black. Show me literally one instance where that has ever been the case. Let me bring on my Twitter back up here, and I'll show you my response to Mark. So let's go back and look at this. I trolled a couple of St. Louis Blues fans on here if you were following me. So, I said with The Athletic, hockey is for everyone, not so fast. Hockey's new report shows the growing issues. And I said, well, let's do the NBA now, since the NBA is every bit as Black as the NHL is white. So I go on to say, so this means the NBA is racist against white men? Horrible article yet again, Mark. Have you ever thought that maybe Black people would rather play basketball and football and not ice hockey? Did you ever think that? You know, maybe Black people aren't into hockey. Maybe every time ESPN on Twitter tweets about hockey and the NHL, there's several Black people who leave comments that say not a sport, and it gets thousands of likes. Did you ever think about that, Mark? Maybe Black people aren't into ice hockey too much. Maybe white people tend to like and play the sport. And maybe, just maybe, that means they're not racist. You, on the other hand, you're a very anti-white racist. And also, it's scary to think this right here, that he's got a girl, that people like this are actually procreating. Scary thought. But let's get back to this gentleman.
So we all know what this means, right? We all know what they're trying to say. We all know the agenda that they're trying to push. They're trying to say that hockey is too white, right? The NHL is too white, which again is absolutely amazing because when it comes to NFL and NBA, the argument is always that, well, the coaches and the executives should reflect the players. Most of the players are Black, which is not a problem, right? Even though they are.
Well, that's true. How come it's not a problem then? If most of the players in the NBA are Black and we're all about diversity, how come 50% of the players aren't white? And I'm not seeing very many Asian NBA players. I'm not seeing very many Asian and Hispanic NFL players. How come we're not calling out these other leagues? What's this focus on Canada? It is interesting that all these sports writers. It is too, isn't it funny too, how the majority of writers who are writing about racism in hockey are all white? Where's the diversity of publications like The Athletic? Where's all the diverse writers? How come they're all white men? That's what I want to know. Where's all the female writers? Where's all the Hispanic writers? Where's all the black writers? That's what I want to know. But I am glad that people like this are talking about this issue.
Disproportionately more than the black population. Not a problem, right? When it comes to sports, a problem when it comes to corporate America, though, right? According to the woke revolutionaries, but not a problem when it comes to sport. That's a meritocracy. Until we get to the NHL, of course. But when it comes to the NHL, the players been mostly white. That means that the staff.
I gotta interject one more time here. So because the best hockey players in the world are white, that means it's racist. Because the best basketball players in the world are black, it's not racist. No, the video didn't freeze. I can't understand that. The only explanation is anti-white racism. There's no other explanation. So because the best hockey players are white, that's racist. The best football players and basketball players are black, and that's not racist. So because it's not racist, then black people can't be racist, but white people can be. I guess that's where we're at, guys. Congratulations. We've done it. We've hit this point in society.
Should be diverse, right? It means they should be not white. The coaches and the staff does not need to reflect the actual players. Ain't it amazing how that works? How in the world is it when you have mostly black?
Okay, one more thing. So if we get rid of all the white players in the NHL and all the white coaches in that, what's the next thing people like Ian Kennedy and our friend Mark and Aka Malou and the Hockey Diversity Alliance, what's the next thing they're going to bitch about? That's what they should be tweeting. What's the next thing I'm going to complain about once we eradicate heterosexual white men from hockey? Once we get rid of them, the league would be 100% diverse. So what's the next thing you want to eradicate? What would it be? What would be the next thing you'd strive for in the diversity field? What's the next step? That's what I want to know. Explain that to me. Let's get rid of Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Fuck all of them because they don't sell tickets, right? Nobody wants to see them. So get all them out of the league and then explain to me how hockey is going to be a better sport. Once you have your diversity, then take the next step. What's the next thing you're going to complain about? You're going to complain, I guess, that nobody's watching the NHL anymore because the best players happen to be white and you threw them all out of the game and you don't like watching shitty minorities who aren't as good as white people play the sport. And because you're not willing to watch that on TV, that means you're racist. I assume that would be your argument, right, Acom? Right, Hockey Diversity Alliance? I bet it would be. I bet that would be the first thing you would say. We don't have white people in hockey anymore and the ratings went down, so that means that people aren't watching hockey because they're racist, not because we got rid of the best players in the world who happen to be white. No. It's because they don't want to watch they don't want to watch minorities play the sport. Oh. You gotta love society that we live in. I'll let him finish now. I'm sorry.
Black leagues. The attempt to add diversity and inclusion to that league includes making coaches and team staff reflect the players because apparently that's important somehow, right? But when it comes to the NHL that is mostly white, all of a sudden the staff and the coaches reflecting the skin color of the players, that don't matter anymore. That is a problem, right? It's a problem when the staff and the coaches reflect the skin color of the players. You guys see how this works? It's like I try to tell you guys all the time, and I'm so serious when I say this. Diversity and inclusion simply means less white, less men, less straight people. That's what it means. That is what it's code name for. This right here is all the proof that you need. The hypocrisy here is absolutely amazing. But I will say, this woman right here, Miss Kim Davis, she's an example of how liberal black women, who are some of the main people that are pushing this woke diversity and inclusion initiative, they're benefiting from this, right? Because it seems like every...
And what did I just say with Aka Malou? Signing $1 million endorsement deals with Adidas, making him one of the most powerful, richest Canadians out there. It's all about marketing. And then things like Hockey Diversity Alliance like to twist at Iran and blame the NHL and say, well, the NHL, they're not... The NHL, they're the ones that are the evil ones because they're only pretending to care about diversity as a marketing ploy, when in reality it's the other way around.
Diversity and equity inclusion chief in corporate America is a black woman. Right? Black women, specifically liberal ones, have benefited greatly from the woke diversity and inclusion initiatives that have been pushed across corporate America. This woman is getting the bag, telling people that they're racist, right? Telling the NHL that they're racist. She's getting the bag. Probably getting paid $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year simply to tell people that they're racist. Do you guys understand?
And that's exactly what Aka Malou's doing. He's going out there, a guy who wasn't good enough to make the NHL, and because he wasn't good enough to make the NHL, that means the NHL's racist, and he had to start a fund as a result of it. But the thing about it is, like this guy's saying, people benefit greatly from coming out and saying it's racist. And of course, Aka Malou, the thing that went on with, Ian Cole, the former NHL defenseman, where they're trying to say that he was that he was involved in a sexual assault. And then the NHL came out and said they found no evidence because, of course, they used the word alleged again. The woman says it was an alleged attempt against Ian Cole, or there's this alleged racism like Aka Malou just tweeted out a couple days ago on 10/6, which is hilarious. Black Lives Matter, Black Power, Black, I Can't Breathe. They all sum to 106. And he tweets that saying that there's a story. And it's all alleged. It's all alleged. Alleged means it's fake. It means it didn't happen. Fake accusations with no proof. Alleged is another synonym for a conspiracy theory. That's what it is.
Incentive structure here, right? There will never be enough diversity and inclusion if you're paying people to tell you that you're not diverse and inclusive enough. What happens when you finally become diverse and inclusive? You'll still be racist, right? You will still be
That's what
racist.
I just said.
But again, This is just an example of how white people simply can't have anything to themselves. I'm so serious. It's totally okay for black people, for Hispanic people, for Asian people to have something to themselves. Nobody will say anything when you say, hey, I got a black business and I hire all black people. Or an Asian person has a business, I hire all Asian people. But if you're white, you better not hire all white people, though. Right? Boy, it's a problem. See, again, here's my thing. I'm a freedom type of guy, right? If black people just want to hire black folks, hey, it is what it is. I'm not going to say anything about it. But that has to be something that's allowed across the board. It can't just be white people who are forced to have diversity and inclusion, but everybody else is allowed to be as racist as they want. They're allowed to discriminate as much as they want. If we're not going to have any discrimination, we can't have discrimination across the board. It's really that simple. In an ideal world, and I know in some cases we're not, but this is actually what we should be striving towards, right? You hire people based off merit, how qualified they are. You hire the best person possible. And this is what is supposed to be reflected in sports. Sports is supposed to be a pure meritocracy in the sense that the best man gets the job. The best man is going to play. The best man is going to coach. We're not putting people in their positions because of their skin color. If the best players happen to be mostly black, so be it. If the best players happen to be mostly white, so be it. If most of the kids that are interested in a certain sport are black, so be it. If most of the kids that are interested in a certain sport, like hockey or the NHL, white, so be it. Let it run its course.
Right.
That's the way that it is. We don't need to come in and try to make it more diverse and inclusive. I don't want a more diverse and inclusive NFL. Right? I don't want that. Just like I don't want a more diverse and inclusive NHL. The people that want to play are going to play, regardless of their skin color.
That's exactly what it is. Nobody is preventing people from playing regardless of skin color. End of discussion. None of these diversity accounts need to exist. None of these occlusion, anti-white racism accounts need to exist. End of discussion. Ask these people to show evidence that a black person was not allowed to play hockey based on their skin color. You can't find one. It doesn't exist. Not out there.
Unless they're openly discriminating against people that are qualified to play, right? That they have the skill set to play. They're discriminating against them because of their race. At that point, I would say that's not right, and that you should, play the best players. The best players should be on your team regardless of skin color. But I don't.
Right, and that doesn't happen in literally any league. It's not out there. Any sport, youth, professional, which we know is all scripted and rigged, collegiate, doesn't exist. It's not out there.
I don't think that that's what NHL is doing. I don't think that NHL is systemically discriminating against black players, not allowing them into the league because of their skin color. I don't believe that that is what is happening. I don't believe that because I don't think that many black people or so-called people of color are interested in playing hockey, and that's fine. That is okay, right? That's okay. Just like it's okay that.
Personally, I'd rather see black people play basketball and football rather than hockey because the best hockey players are white and the best basketball and football players are black. I cover high school football, here in Pennsylvania, and it's like you see it at the youth that the black players are the best players. You see it in college football. You see it in the NFL. Imagine if the NFL was forced to be 80-90% white. Imagine if the NBA was forced to be 90% white. Think about how shitty professional basketball would be. A bunch of unathletic white guys running around everywhere. Imagine that travesty. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that even if I'm watching a high school game. You want to see the best players, the best people competing against each other. If you had an NBA and an NHL and all these leagues weren't rigged, it would still be the same thing. The same thing would still exist. The majority of hockey players would be white because the best hockey players are white. The NBA would be the same thing. It would still be mostly black. The NFL would be mostly black because the best NBA and NFL players are black, and that's okay. It's a better product. I don't know why people just can't understand this stuff.
NBA is mostly black. The NFL is mostly black from a player perspective. That's okay. But again, to me, what really blows my mind is how when it comes to the NBA, NFL, any league that's mainly so-called people of color when it comes to the players, we're told that the staff, the executives must match the players, right? They must reflect the players. But when it comes to the NHL, a mostly white league, right? Most of the players are white. That doesn't apply anymore, right? We need a more diverse and inclusive staff that does not reflect the skin color of the players. Again, more evidence and proof that when they say diversity and inclusion, what they mean is we want less white, less men, and less straight. That's exactly what they mean. So, let me know what you guys say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.
Yeah, be sure to subscribe to that guy because he definitely, he's one that gets it. He's one of the fortunate ones. We're going to listen to Mark Dice right here because Mark Dice, this guy cracks me up too. He's pretty damn funny with a lot of the shit he puts out there. So let's go ahead and listen to what he says.
The NHL, the National Hockey League, has published their first diversity and inclusion report after I'm sure some twits on Twitter were complaining that there were too many white people playing hockey.
And we know who those twits are on Twitter. We just pointed a couple of them out. A lot more than that, unfortunately.
Now we know for sure, and they put together a detailed analysis of the entire sport and found that 84% of the workforce is also dominated by white people. This is from the Associated Press. NHL, its workforce, 84% white, set baseline to up diversity. Diversity, of course, being a code word for less white people, less straight white people. And so this is the report, Accelerating Diversity and Inclusion, which is filled with all sorts of fancy pie charts about the racial demographics of the sport. But that's not all. It's never enough. Also, they break down the gender identity demographics and the sexual orientation of people in the sport. Now, it went from it's nobody's business what they do in the privacy of their own home to Businesses are now sending out questionnaires to the employees wanting to know so they can put the queer people up on a pedestal and celebrate them. Seriously, they're complaining that there aren't enough queer people in hockey. And if you attend professional sports, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, pretty much anything these days, you better check the calendar first. Otherwise, you might accidentally be attending a gay pride parade.
Well, it was Pride Night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Fans were greeted with rainbows galore as the Stanley Cup champs showed that they are champions for everyone in this community.
All they wanted was the right to get married, they said, but now they're throwing gay pride parades at major sporting events. Could you imagine people complaining and then putting together a report about the racial demographics of NBA players and then literally starting an outreach program to try to increase the diversity by recruiting more white players? Or going to any kind of event that has particular cultural roots, like a lowrider show, and then complaining that there aren't enough white people around. Excuse me, Jose, these are some really cool cars, but I'm feeling a little uncomfortable because there are so many Mexicans around here. But the madness never ends. They're also upset that too many...
So, like, if I go on vacation to Africa, and I say, would I be allowed to then say, you know what, I don't feel welcome or safe here because there's way too many blacks. There's not nearly enough whites. How would that go down on Twitter?
Too many white people like to go skiing, even in Europe, which, well, I guess used to be a predominantly white region of the world.
Cortina may be one of only a handful of places to host the Alpine World Championships, but it's similar to every resort in Europe and across North America in one respect. The fact that almost everyone in these beautiful places is white. That is certainly the case here in Largs and has been at all of the places that I've been fortunate enough to visit through competition and now work.
When I say the madness never ends, it literally never ends. There is also a push to increase diversity in cycling, like this organization, which is real, by the way. This is not a parody.
I'm Nia.
I'm Shaka, and together we're Black People Ride Bikes.
Black People Ride Bikes Incorporated was started to fill a void within a black cycling community, specifically youth and adults. Our mission is to bring cycling awareness to the black diaspora.
By cycling awareness? What the heck is the black diaspora?
By building a community of black cyclists with a focus on health, exploration, and advocacy. BlackPeopleRideBikes.com. Click the GoFundMe and support.
And remember,
Black people
ride bikes.
Yay, yay.
The black fragility knows no bounds, and many are upset that too many white people like to enjoy public parks.
The sweeping vistas stir the soul. Wildlife and waterfalls awaken a sense of wonder. The American wilderness, a playground for old and for young, and overwhelmingly white.
When you look around, you don't see people that you identify with. You don't feel welcome. You feel out of place. You feel literally like you are an outsider.
Normal people enjoy public parks to get away from the city or the suburbs, get closer to nature, see the wildlife, the beautiful scenery, but this woman apparently is so anti-white that she just can't get over the fact that there aren't enough brown people around.
Ambreen Tarek is founder of Brown People Camping. When she was 8 years old, her family moved from India to Minnesota, where she fell in love with the outdoors. 20 years later, she's still astonished not to see more people like her.
This is what happens when people's entire identity is focused solely on their race, instead of who they are as a person in terms of what they do or what they bring to the table to benefit mankind. Like, you're a mother, you're a father, you're an engineer, I'm a media analyst. But in this woman's case, I'm a brown woman, hear me roar. These days, most Fortune 500 companies literally have somebody who works there with the job title of Diversity and Inclusion Officer, if not an entire department, literally dedicated to try to make sure that there aren't too many white straight people working in the company. Apple's diversity chief, who was a black woman, got forced out of her job after she made comments at a conference saying that there's more to diversity than just someone's race and gender, saying that there can be 12 white, blue-eyed, blonde men in a room, and they're going to be diverse too, because they're going to bring a different life experience and life perspective to the conversation. But that was offensive, and literally, she got forced out of her job. Of course, in the name of diversity, the new Captain America America is going to be black.
So because a woman stood up for anti-white racism and said we actually need white people to be part of the diversity, she gets canned as a black woman. Oh my God. I'm sorry. This shit, I mean, you can't make this up. It's just too stupid to make up.
Character who used to play the role is passing the shield off to this gentleman for diversity. Things are getting so crazy that there was a series over in England or a film about the history of one particular queen, Anne Boleyn, and they literally cast a black woman in the role. This was supposed to be a historical drama, and they literally cast a black woman. And then they didn't understand why there was a controversy. Why the controversy over a black actress playing Anne Boleyn? It's unnecessary and harmful. It's
This guy Dice cracks me up. Why is it a controversy? Because the original Anne Boleyn was a white woman, and you cast a black woman for that was. This actually has to be explained to people.
It's harmful. What's harmful is the imaginary racism, the hallucinations that so many people keep experiencing, and then blaming on white people. Like this woman who was flying by herself on a Delta flight, a black woman, who was asked by the flight attendant to switch seats with another passenger, which, if you've ever flown, you know happens all the time, particularly if you're flying in a group or couples, and then sometimes the computer doesn't put your seats right next to each other. So the flight attendant will often ask passengers who are flying by themselves if they'll just switch seats, okay? And so this woman just so happened to get switched to another seat that was in the back of the plane, and she thought it was because of racism. And it was reminiscent of when black people were forced to sit in the back of the bus, like 60, 70 years ago?
I don't want to make it a race thing, but instead of asking the two white women that were seated next to me in an attempt to accommodate them, they basically made me have to move. And I just don't know why I had to move because, that was the seat that I paid for.
But that's still not as bad as this woman who blames the fact that she's obviously obese on white people.
The research says that black women, when we do the same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower, even when we're following the diet than our white women counterparts.
You are not following the diet. I know for a fact.
And what public health practitioners think is that our stress responses in the body change our metabolism. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
That kind of thing's got to be scripted. I mean, that has to be. These got to all be actors and shit. There's no way this is real.
Tell us, Tulsi Gabbard, what are the communists doing to this country?
Who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
She gets it.
Notice she just didn't say stoking racism, because again, everyone's been conditioned to think that that's something that only white people do to non-white people.
Right.
Tulsi obviously sees what's happening. Everybody sees what's happening. More and more people are finally starting to speak out about it.
Well, and that's good to see that most people are speaking out about it. We could probably end this video right here. Again, Mark Dice, he's hilarious. He does a lot of funny shit. So if you're not subbed to him, I'd give him a sub. But yeah, it is true when you see there's more and more hate toward articles like I just showed in the NHL and about hockey, as well as people like Dice talking about this, Black Conservative Perspective talking about this. More and more people are starting to see just how stupid this shit is. So we'll leave it there, guys. I'm sure there's much more fake racism to come in the world of hockey this year. And as always, I'll be right there to talk about it. So we'll leave it there. Till next time.